Man, do you hear that? Look at here. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to have a party. I'm talking good on barbecue. Hey guys, welcome to this edition of the Oldboy podcast. And I know it's a little different than our usual set. We're so honored to be out here at Onyx in Denver. And we're here with one of the fighters today, Archie Colgan. My man, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chad. How are you?
Doing awesome. So a little bit of background on why we're here. We had the opportunity to come out, I guess, before Justin was getting ready to kind of get into weight cut and everything for 300. And go way back. We met Luke and Justin a couple years ago at a 6-hour event. And those guys wanted to cook. They wanted to have a good time and, hang out. And so got Justin a grill, got Luke a grill, kind of stayed in touch. My boy Alex that works with me at Traeger. Worked with him too. And then, we came out here just to kind of feed and hang out with you guys. And man, walked in here and got to meet you and the rest of, the coaches, and then really got to spend some time with Trevor and then just through the weekend, man, and just seeing what kind of family you guys are and the kind of operation that Trevor runs here. It's amazing, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's I feel blessed to be a part of it too, every day, even though this has become, just kind of my day-to-day life and what it is that I live. And this is my team as well. Yeah, I feel blessed to be a part of it too, because really it all stemmed from Justin. This is Gaethje's team, and he brought, I was a good training partner for him. So, I came in under that, and it's really a team that's revolved around him, but it's become just a team for everybody.
I love it. And that's one of the things I want to talk about in a little more detail, but let's kind of step back a little bit and kind of set the stage. Were you always growing up? Were you into wrestling? Were you wrestling in kids tournaments and stuff like that? Was that your sport, or did you play a lot of sports and kind of just gravitated towards wrestling?
I started wrestling young. So my brother came home with the local flyer for the wrestling club and said, "Hey Dad, I want to wrestle." My dad was like, "All right, go ahead." And I was just little brother following big brother. So I just followed him to the wrestling club and we just went to practice. I was like 4. He was probably like 6 or 7. And then, it just was never really stopped after that. And I did track and like soccer and stuff, but those were just like to try it out. I never like took that stuff serious, and the wrestling I took serious eventually, and it's done well for me.
Well, was there a point there when you're, and that's one thing that's cool too. And I guess we should mention too, you born and raised out here, in the Denver area. For me being a Florida guy, I really didn't get introduced to wrestling until like junior high school. But I thought it was awesome. You know what I mean? Like it was so fun. What I enjoyed about it was like, you go there and get that ass whipped, old boy. There ain't nowhere to look except right in the mirror. You know what I mean? Like the shortstop didn't boot a ground ball. You know what I mean? That if you lose, you got to be real honest with yourself and figure out how to get better. But I love that about it too, and I love the fact that if you weren't the biggest guy or the strongest guy, there were still ways to win, right? You could still just be a better technician or just really focus on having being very good defensively and then being able to play off of that. But I love that about wrestling. So as you're going through and doing these tournaments, was there a time where you felt like, or maybe your pops or your parents felt like, okay, he's better than average?
Yeah, it was probably like, so my first match, my dad always reminds me of it. I was 4 years old and I lost like 23-15. It was just kids rolling around all over the place, just going crazy. But like, I just kept coming back. And I was doing better. I was more than average almost all the time. But around 10 is when I was like, that's when I first placed at my first state tournament. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this thing. And then, how it works is it's 10 and under. So it's like 10-year-old and 9-year-olds. And then after that, you go to 12 and under. So it's 12-year-olds and 11-year-olds. So I, just did really good. And then I went to 11 years old. And then I was wrestling the 12-year-olds who was, just a little bit older than you. And, I tried the moves that I was doing when I was 10 and it didn't work anymore. And I remember like sitting on the side of the mat, just sitting there sad. And my dad came up to me. He was like, "What do you think?" I was like, "Those moves don't work anymore, Dad. I got to learn some other things." And he was like, "Well, there you go." And, my dad and my mom always did a really good job of like just supporting us and not like being over the top and like making me wrestle, making me do these things like that. Like me coming up to him and just being like, "Hey, I gotta learn some new moves." He was like, "All right, well, what do you want to do?" And then, go and find other places, little camps and stuff like that to get better.
So in high school, what was your high school team? Was it a pretty solid wrestling program? Like something that had we've got at my county back home. There's a high school called Lake Gibson, and I mean, if there's a state wrestling tournament, Lake Gibson's going to be in it, and in their classification, they're going to probably be. If they don't win it, they're going to be a top 3 team.
Yeah.
Did you have the pleasure of going to kind of a high school that had that kind of pedigree?
I did. Yeah. So the team that I went to is called Pomona High School. It's probably just like 15, 20 minutes from here. It's in Arvada, Colorado. But yeah, we're like a notorious team right now. They're probably on 6 straight titles, state titles as a team. And since I graduated, we won my senior year. And then that was in 2013. So 11 years ago. Since then, they've probably won 7 or 8 of the 11. So yeah, they're doing really good. And then my years that I was there, the 4 years I was there, we were probably third, second, first, something like that. So we've always been like a kind of a powerhouse team out here.
So team state championship your senior year of high school, and individual
finally
state championship, 39-4.
Yeah.
Can you, out of those 4 losses, can you remember all of them?
Yeah, I can.
Can you think of, is there any of those 4 losses that you go back to where you're like, you know what, I could have done things different, but I just got beat?
Yeah, there's 2 of them, maybe 3, that I think I could have in a different situation beat the guy. But one of them, the guy was just better than me.
Yeah,
he's just like, it was a close match. It was like 3-1 or something like that, but he controlled the match. Like, I didn't get any offense going. He shut me down. Like, he was just a better wrestler than me. But the other 2, like, I kind of, let off gas when I shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. I made mistakes that let them win the match.
And that's always interesting too, because sometimes there is, we're all born to want to win, right?
Yeah.
But there is also some confidence to be gained in a loss, like taking, for instance, that one where he was good. He was better than me. But to hang in there, you lose 3-1, 3-2. Like, there's something to come out of that. If you're not happy with that loss, but you got better for it, you learned something about yourself. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes when you have those moments, it stings at the beginning for sure, but being able just to step back and have that perspective of, what did come out? Something positive did come out of it, and that hunger to not let it happen again.
Yeah, that's kind of like a thing of life. It's as much as pain and like some of these situations hurt, something good can come from it. It's not always going to be something good that comes from it, but like my last college loss, I thought I was done being an athlete. I was not trying to become a fighter. I was not trying to be like, I want to be Bellator champion. I want to be UFC champion. I had no ambitions of any of that. I just wanted to finish off doing that and then go wrestle. Ideally what I wanted was to win and become an All-American in college and then go off and try to compete for worlds and Olympics and stuff like that. But then I didn't All-American, so I was like, I'm done. I don't want to be an athlete anymore. I'm just going to work a 9 to 5. And I started doing that. And that's when I moved back home, started doing that. And then I ran into these guys. And these guys drugged me back into this life. But if I would have became an All-American and didn't lose, then I would just be chasing this wrestling dream. But because I lost and didn't become the All-American that I said, I'm now chasing a dream of becoming a fighter, which never would have happened.
And it was, I mean, you talk about that All-American being such a catalyst. Archie, it was one match.
I know.
You win that last match, and like you said, this whole plan A moves into, this would have been a really exciting time because you'd been thinking, worlds. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's just crazy how, like, in hindsight, it's sometimes it's like, the hardest hurt that you can get. But when, years later, you look down the line and you look from far, it's what's needed to happen to grow and to become who you're going to become.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. Stepping back for a second, you finish up with that state championship in high school.
Yeah.
Had you already been getting approached by colleges? Was Wyoming the place you intended to go because, you knew they had a good program, things like that? Talk to me a little bit about that high school to college transition.
Yeah. So I was heavily recruited with D2 schools in like Division 3s, but I was like dead set that I wanted to go Division 1. And I wasn't that approached because, the 2 years prior I got third and third. And I was expected to win at least one of those titles, and I didn't win it. So, I wasn't as approached as I was expecting or as I was wanting to be. But throughout the year, I got approached by like UNC, who actually is crazy enough. He's my wrestling coach now.
Really?
Coach Ben, the wrestling coach.
Yeah,
he recruited me to go to UNC, but I didn't go to UNC. So years later, circle back around, he's my wrestling coach. But so I got recruited to go to UNC, got recruited to go to like Air Force. Didn't have the grades to go to Air Force. And then Iowa State and Wyoming. And I wanted to go to Iowa State because they have like a prestigious program themselves. But, things just didn't work out. It didn't make sense. They didn't want to pay for me to fly out there and all that stuff. It didn't seem like a real visit. Then I went to Wyoming, and they have a good program as well. But it was not my go-to because I'm not a country kid.
What do you mean, Arch?
I'm not a country kid. No. I had fun. I had a great time. You were
spending your Saturdays rustling cattle out here, man.
I did that too. But no, I was, I wasn't, that's just not my go-to thing. Like, being out there in the country and stuff. But I had a great time. That was the decision that we made, my parents and I, to go up there. And I got a great education and had a great wrestling career and had a real fun time doing it. So
you had a great wrestling career. I mean, 112 victories.
Yeah.
I mean, what that says to me is, you were putting in wins as a freshman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's something to be said for that, especially at a good program, Yeah. What were you wrestling in high school and college weight-wise?
All of college, I was 157. That was my weight class. Then high school, it changed every year. I was 119 as a freshman, and then 140, 152, 160.
Got you.
Yeah.
So you've been that's a good weight for you. I mean, because you're fighting 155 now, so that's just for your ability. Feel that's where you.
Yeah, that's if I had maybe like 2-3 more inches in height, then you could talk about going up to the weight class more. But some of these guys are just too tall up there, and I'm not giving that up.
So when you were at Wyoming, was that when Josh Allen was there?
Yeah, we were same graduating class.
Dude, that had to be cool. I mean, to go to a school like that's not known as a football school, that energy, that had to be pretty fun to be there for that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun because he like brought a lot of hype, so the games got real full, and everybody started like traveling from Colorado, Wyoming, all over, and coming to these games, and they were like sold out. And that was real cool. And ESPN was coming out and stuff, so it was cool. Like it got a lot of notoriety, and all from one person. That's pretty cool.
And that's a pretty, and I think the cool thing about that when it happened too was like that's a stadium not a lot of us has seen.
Yeah,
that's a gorgeous stadium. When they take and run that drone footage, you can see it's gorgeous.
You can see the mountains in the back.
Yes.
It's nice. It's real nice. It's small. It's not like some big old Nebraska stadium. Yeah. It's like a small, intimate, like nice. Probably sits, I don't know, 15.
I was gonna say 12, 15. Like that. What a cool experience. What'd you major in?
Communication.
Okay.
Yeah. So I jumped right out of that, and then I got like a couple of sales jobs, and I was just bouncing between sales jobs and figuring all that out. A couple of them that I actually liked. It was cool, but I don't like any.
So how do you bump up into these guys?
So like I was just going to a normal like 24-hour fitness gym, like just working out gym, and I ran into my coach, who's still my coach today, Justin Salas, who Trevor coached him when he was fighting in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So I ran into him at a gym, and he wrestled at the University of Wyoming. So he knew who I was. I didn't know him. Mm-hmm. But he came up to me. He was like, "Hey, you're Archie. You wrestled at Wyoming, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "My name's Justin Salas. I fought for the UFC. And I wrestled at Wyoming too." I was like, "Oh, cool." And I was like, I'd like no interest in fighting. I was like, "Hey, can you teach me a little boxing? Just like for a workout?" Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Sure." And then we started like hitting a little bit, and then just took off from there. So
as we sit here today and think about it, you're 10-0 in Bellator.
Yeah.
Making a hell of an impression. This was 4 years ago, Archie. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, think about it. 4 years ago, you walked in here and look at how much your life's changed.
It's crazy.
But I think it also speaks volumes about hard work and determination and, deciding you want something bad enough that everything else is noise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's pretty wild.
It is. I mean, it goes back to like what we were saying earlier. Like, how I said, if, these losses didn't have happened and stuff. So before I started to like really approach this fighting career and like saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I had a lot of time between the end of my wrestling career and the start of this fight career of being able to sit down and say, why didn't I become the wrestler that I wanted to become? It wasn't because I wasn't athletically gifted or I didn't work hard or I didn't, I wasn't like able to do it physically. So why was it? It was like mental. So I had to sit down and think, okay, if I'm going to do this fighting thing, I don't want to end up with the same hurt that I left wrestling. So I got to fix those things going into it. So I had a lot of people don't get that luxury, even though it's not a luxury because there's a lot of hurt behind it. They don't get that luxury to really sit down with themselves and say, you weren't enough because of this. And if you're going to do this again, you need to make sure that you're enough in those areas. So I was able to do those things, and I've never turned back on any of them. Like, you know,
you might wrestling. You might sharing a couple of those.
Yeah, wrestling. I used to like question if like I should be able to win this match. Like, you know, if me and you were about to wrestle and you're ranked 8 and I'm ranked 10, I go in my head expecting this should be a really good match instead of just going out there and wrestle. And now I'm just like, go out there and wrestle. Or now it's, you know, go out there and fight, like whatever. Yeah. And just go to your best ability, and whatever happens happens. So I don't second guess myself anymore. Like, I know what I'm capable of, and if you're able to beat me knowing what I'm capable of, then kudos to you, man. Yeah. Good job. But that hasn't happened yet.
I like that confidence swagger. I like it, Arch. No, but that's, you know, having that ability to reflect.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and hearing, you know, we were joking before we started filming this, you know, you were born when I graduated high school. Yeah. So to hear a young man that can have that kind of reflection and from the point of view of not wanting to not fail, and yeah, that hurt to fail, but wanting to make sure you do everything you can to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, so that 4 years ago when you start on this journey, at that time, are you married? Any kids yet? Or kind of how's, well, time trying to line up the personal life with the professional life a little bit.
So, we had just got married in September of 20, and then I made my pro debut in March of 21. So I had my amateur fights when we weren't married, but no, when I first started my pro career, we were married. And then Q, my oldest son, who's gonna be 3 in September, he was born of September 21. So yeah, I had been married, and then a couple of fights started, and then kid 1, and then a couple of more fights, and then kid 2.
That's awesome.
Here we are.
You know, I heard you talking about in another podcast, you had done another discussion. It was and you talked about how proud and how hard it makes you work because those boys look at you and think you're Superman. Like, think you're the coolest dude in the world, and you work hard, and then it means a lot to you to be able to set by example.
Yeah.
Here's what whether it's in fighting, whether it's not in fighting, here's what hard work and determination will get you. Like, if you enjoy living this lifestyle, following these footsteps, Dad's going to lead by example.
Yeah.
Strong, man.
Yeah. It's cool to, like, I mean, you guys all work hard, you know, but like the sweat equity that we have to put in as a fighter, like, that's visible hard work to anybody. Yeah. Like, anybody, you don't speak English, can see him, damn, that guy's working his ass off.
Absolutely.
But somebody else could equally be working hard for me as I am in his field, but he's just sitting there on the computer, you know, and he's typing things up. But my kids can sit there and say, wow, my dad is working hard, because they can literally see, just like anybody else can, how hard it is that I'm working. So my kids have, like, grown up in the gyms, like, running around, wrestling, watching me do this stuff. They fight and stuff at home. It's like, obviously that is like what a boy would grow up to want to be. That's his hero. Yeah. You know, he doesn't even have to watch like a Hulk. He's got, you know, his dad. He's got
the real Hulk.
They don't know the difference right now. Yeah. That's a legitimate superhero. Like, I'm going to show you this, my background on my phone. Like, this is from my fight.
Oh, I love that,
like,
man.
I can't look at that before a fight and think I can't go be my best self.
Yeah.
Like, my kid is at home doing that, believing in me like that. He believes in me like that. I got to go out there and fight. Exactly. I got to go out there and perform.
That is so cool, man. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
You know, and does it, you know, one of the things we kind of talked about at the beginning of the podcast was just how quickly I could tell this place was special.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean, because you are working so hard and training, you know, once, twice a day, depending on when you're in camp, that kind of stuff, like, to be able to bring your family up here for your, you know, because during those times, you know, the fact that your wife and boys can be up here and they can be, it's got to be good to be in a gym where that's wanted.
Yeah.
That's not I don't have a babysitter. No, that's what we do here.
Yeah, bring him in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Luke bring his kid in, just other coach, like Justin Salas, he bring his boy in.
Yeah, he would start the buzzer and go rock the baby while you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. Proud sponsor of the show, Trollco Clothing. Love what the brand's about. It's all about supporting that blue collar worker. You know them for their trademark shirt and hat, dirty hands, clean money. It's not just a slogan, it is a lifestyle. Go visit trollcoclothing.com and use my discount code Oldboy Podcast for 15% off.
Like you're saying, it's like a family.
Yeah.
That proves it even more.
Yeah.
I bring my kids in. Justin's getting ready to fight UFC 300. My kids come in, and he's like, comes over there, starts playing with my kids a little bit, and then he's like, all right, time to focus up and get in there.
Beat up on your dad a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm like, boys, why you hugging him? No, but that's like Trevor and Justin, they've done a really good job of building a community and great people around them. And I don't think that they would let somebody in who's not a good person, who would be a good fit to the family and in the community. So I think that's more organically done than, they can feel it. You can feel bullshit right off the bat.
Yep.
So, and they've done a really good job of doing that. And Trevor's worked his ass off to build, this stuff. And look at all these belts that are on the wall.
Pretty impressive.
Standing in here with a room of legends. They're not even in the room right now.
And speaking of that, two things I kind of wanted to go towards here is you made the comment before that, any outcome is kind of a product of the work you put in, good or bad.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, you've had, the opportunity of doing camps with Justin, with Usman, like guys that are top of the tip. How do you think that's helped you, develop professionally?
So much. Like it's like I was able from a young age in my career to see what the top of the level is. And like I can see how they work. I can see that these guys are also what I think a lot of people don't get to see early on is that the people at the top are just people. Like you because they're so successful on the television and you watch them and they're doing all these things and they seem so far out that you almost get this perception that they're not normal people like you are. But then when you work with them day to day, they get tired just like you get tired.
Yep.
They don't want to do that third workout or that second workout just like you don't want to do.
They can roll their ankle just
then they get banged up just like you get banged up. And they don't want to do those last goes that you don't want to do. But they do it, and that's why they end up being that person. It's because they go do those things. And I got to watch that from a very young age. I got to watch, Justin sitting against the wall and saying how he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. He's like, I'm done. He's laying on his back tired. Like, I don't want to do this. And then get up and wrestling.
Yeah.
And just being like, damn, the person who's sitting at home would never think that he would do that.
Right.
Or Kamaru just like tired, just like I'm tired. And not wanting to do this last go, but we both know we got to do it, and then going to do it. So like, obviously that work with them makes me better because we're both working, but just to see them and being like, damn, these guys are literally just humans. I remember Justin telling me something really early on about when he was younger, he got to train with GSP and he was like kind of in his head thinking like, damn, this guy's, George St. Pierre, this guy's, this good. And then he got to realize, he's like, man, this guy's tired just like I am at wrestling practice. He was like, he don't want to be here either. This guy wants to go home just like I want to go home. And he was like, wow. And then he said that was an awakening moment. And then he was like, fuck, I'm just going to go do my best. Yep. And just whatever happens. Then when he told me that, I was like, switched roles. That's like me to him now. Yeah. I'm like, he's right.
And you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to be that guy to somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to be that same guy to somebody.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what's special about, it's interesting because you pull this back, and I've heard Trevor say this before. Is like, two guys can go in and beat the hell out of each other. 3 rounds, 5 rounds, whatever. And 99.9% of the time afterwards, there is a respect that you just had. Like you went to battle against each other.
Yeah.
You took everything I had, I took everything you had, and there's just a respect there. Yeah. And I feel like that's when you're adversaries, but actually helping prepare somebody to go be victorious. And even if they're not, that's still like that connection. Like that's real. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's you were literally putting in sweat and blood together.
Yeah.
And it's it's a weird thing because you would think, two grown men come in a room together and you spend an hour punching each other, that you would leave with some sort of tension.
Yeah.
But you leave closer.
Yeah.
You end up you leave with the sense of being like, all right, this motherfucker is tough. Like he's good.
Well,
he's got that. He's got a dog too.
Yeah. Without turning this into a taster's choice moment, you left a little portion of yourself with the other person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That you won't get back. You know what I mean? That you spent something that won't get replenished.
Yeah. Yeah. And they learn something about you that you can't learn any other way.
Yeah.
Like you can't learn how tough somebody is fighting wise without fighting them.
Yeah.
Without being like, this guy's he's just like I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to self-report here. First fight of yours I ever watched was the last one.
Cool.
And that was because came out here, met
that's
you.
When I first
we
met
became
you.
buds. You know what I mean? Like,
I got put first on scene.
Absolutely. So wanted to support you, and kind of reading about you leading up to that fight. It was the first time in your pro career where you'd had 6 months off.
Yeah.
You kind of been one of those guys that was fighting every 2-3 months, and you just turned pro. You're trying to get your reps in. You know what I mean? And build that record. What did it feel like with the 6 months off?
It felt good. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I stayed training steadily because, I'm not in the position like, Justin and Kamaru are when, they know for sure when they're going to get a 12-week camp, you know? And I probably do too. I have been, fortunately, that I do. Mm-hmm. But, it also could, they could hit me up last second and be like, hey, fight in 4 weeks. Can you do it?
Yep.
And I'm not going to be out of shape. So I'm steadily training. So the 6 months kind of went by quick. I honestly, when it was coming up, I was like, dang, 6 months. That's when I fought last. That's crazy. It's a half a year that just burned by and you don't even notice it. But yeah, I'm always in the gym. I'm always ready to take on these opportunities and keep myself in good shape. So I'm ready to go.
In that fight too, I mean, I was not saying this because you're sitting here. I mean, that shit when you were close.
Yeah.
I mean, you destroyed that guy. I mean, I think there was some point, was there 48 unanswered strikes?
Yeah.
And then he hit you, and there was 20 more.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I was sitting there like, man, it's like Groundhog Day. That's all we're going to do.
Groundhog Day.
Like you were on him like white on rice. But, when it comes to something like that and you're game planning with your team.
Yeah.
Are you more putting together a game plan of what you need to do based on, some weaknesses you see? It's more about he fights the way he fights, and we're going to put our strengths together to best expose that, right?
Yeah. It's more of, I mean, obviously you got to take in consideration on what it is that they do because you don't want to be blind.
Right.
You have to respect that he is also a good fighter and this is what he does, but you also have to boost up and say, this is what I do well, and I need to make sure that I do the best way to stop what he does well is to do what I do well.
Yeah.
So I knew that in the first round and a half, he was going to be more dangerous on the feet. So I wanted to take him down, tire him out, beat him up. And then the last round and a half, then we can stand a little bit more and try to exchange and fight and try to look for the finish there. Yeah. And, the finish didn't come, but that was the plan, and I followed the plan really well. But yeah, just didn't end up with the finish.
Where, if we look back at the pro fighter King is right now compared to 2 years ago, what part of your game would you say has had the most improvement? Right there?
Yeah, mental.
And I think that also has to do with, who you're surrounded by.
Yeah.
I mean, listen to Trevor talk just when he's working you guys, and obviously that's the same mindset that, Justin and Usman and the guys that you're working with have. Like, they're just those mental reps. That's interesting to think, because when this grows, everything else gets, stand-up game gets better, wrestling game gets better. You know what I mean? Because you're being more thoughtful. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, it goes back to what, what I was saying about the wrestling career. It's like, I don't second guess it.
Yeah.
I've grown mentally to the point where I trust myself.
Yeah.
And I know, like, this is what I'm capable of, and this is what, we're going to go out there and do. And it's built through repetition of talking to yourself, obviously, but just being around people. Like you said, like, listen to Trevor's voice when he's running us through a workout. Like, he's done this for so long, and he's such a master at coaching people in what he does, that, like, when he talks with a tone that is like zero question.
Yeah.
He's 100% confident. He knows what he's saying.
Yep.
Like, there's no bullshit in it. Being like, well, you should maybe punch it this way. He's like, punch it this way. Go do it this way. And then when he says it, it's everybody in the room understands, like, this is what the standard is. Like, this is what we're working. And that's carried down from him down to my coach, Justin Salas, and he's the same. He's obviously not has the same amount of time in coaching as Trevor does, but he's very focused and intentional on what it is that he's trying to train and to push me to do.
I did, and then and with that kind of leadership, that's amazing. Only great things could come. And that was kind of cool in talking to Luke. I said, okay, gonna talk to Archie here in a few, man, from a coach's point of view. Like, tell me about it. And he's like, dude, reminds me so much of Justin. And he's like, he's willing to give you everything he's got. He'll come in here and he'll work. Maybe days you don't want to work, he'll work harder. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he said he's just so coachable. And he has this huge desire to just want to get better, and he'll do whatever it takes. And I love that about you, man. And the interesting thing he said too is he goes, man, Archie, he's always got a smile on his face. He's always having a great time, always, polite, professional. He's like, but dude, when that guy gets in the ring, he's like, I like seeing that side of him.
Yeah.
He's like his in-ring persona. He's like, and then when he turns on, and for you, when does that switch kind of feel like? Is it when you get in the octagon? Is it the walkout? Is it when you get in the locker room? Like, when do you start kind of fight Archie's coming? Yeah, King's coming.
Yeah, the Kings are coming out. Yeah. Some point in the locker room, it's weird. Sometimes it's like walking to the locker room and getting there, and as soon as you get in there, it kind of switches. And sometimes it's like, after a little bit of hitting pads and warming up back there, and somewhere in there, it switches. I remember one fight actually was kind of weird. I was like waiting, I felt like myself. And I was like, dang, this is weird. Then I went to the bathroom and peed, and then I washed my hands. I looked up in the mirror, and then it changed. And I was like, and I remember like walking from the bathroom, peeing, washing my hands, and looking in the mirror. And by the time I came back to hit pads, the vibe was just different. I was like, all right, let's go. So I love that feeling too, but it's hard to operate there.
Yeah.
If I lived that, I would not be a successful father. Yeah. I could not operate there very well. Like, not with the wife and kids. I would be a savage human being if I was to try to live in that realm forever.
I totally get it.
Yeah,
there's a time and a place for it.
But it's fun. Like, shout out Luke before we move on from Luke. Luke's the shit. Luke's a really good dude, man. He's been really good to me.
He's been an awesome friend, man. There's just those guys you meet and you're like, I think we're going to stay in touch. You know what I mean? And we've stayed in touch and we've gotten closer, and he's just an amazing guy. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, he's been so good to me. Like, earlier on in my career when I didn't have much money, and I needed somebody to hold pads for me or work me out or something, he'd come, leave his family, come do it. Wouldn't take any money. And even now, like, if I asked him to work out, he won't take money from him. So, I buy him some other things. Like, I bought him a nice bottle of whiskey recently, and I brought it to him just to say thank you. But, like, he's just a genuine dude. Like, Luke's,
he loves it. Like, this is his life. Like, he loves being able to contribute to you guys and be a part of it and share what he's learned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, when you hear Trevor talk about the passion he has for coaching and training. Yeah. There's a reason him and Luke have been together for, years and years and years. And Luke's cut a lot for that same cloth.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. Luke's a good man.
So this last fight was also your first time fighting international.
Yeah.
We got London coming up here, September 14th. Well, how did you enjoy going over and kind of getting acclimated a couple days early before fight week?
Yeah, that was nice. Because the way we did it too, we went to Paris, and Paris itself, like right where Eiffel Tower and all that stuff is, man, the people are a little more rude. But I can see why. You get a lot of tourists.
Passive aggressive as shit over there. Yeah.
But I can see why. You get Americans come over there and expecting you to speak English, and making them do this, making them do that. I can see why they would be. But the week prior, we came out and we were in Paris, but like 20 minutes away. And the people were super friendly, even though none of us know any French. Mm-hmm. But we were just all speaking English, and they're real, accommodating to us and real friendly. And yeah, like, it was cool to see that side of it, and then go into Paris for fight week, where you like lock in and be like, France is a cool place. Paris itself could be hard, because I can see why they would not like the tourists all the time. But when you get away from it, I was like, yeah, this is cool. So I plan on doing the same thing for London, being in London, but then going, maybe 20 minutes outside of where we were gonna fight at, where it should be like the city, and going outside and just experiencing the life of people, day-to-day people, and then go to a gym local there. Then we'll go back downtown and get ready for the fight.
No, I love that. That's actually where I was going with it. Was did you enjoy it enough that you were going to do the same thing for London? I love that.
Yeah.
Well, there's something too about just not having that travel stress, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially nowadays with the way cancellations can happen and this and that. It's like you want to know you're giving yourself the best opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, and it's at the expense of like a few $100 more, a couple $1,000. It's like this is my career. You got to invest in your career. So I want to make sure that when I show up on fight week, I'm the best Archie I can be. The only way to do that is to make sure that I listen to people around me. Before I made that decision, I came to Justin and was like, hey, when you fought in London, what'd you think? He was like, yeah, I went 10 days before. He's like, if you can afford it, then I would do it. Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. I can't afford it like you, but I'll do it.
My Airbnb may be a little more modest.
Yeah, you got the showers and the backyard. I got a small apartment, but
we're gonna make it work. I love that. One of the other things about going to a foreign country and fighting is, obviously that challenge of getting there. But, we were talking to Tim Johnson on the podcast, and he was talking about when he went over to Russia and fought.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I bet that was something.
Dude, you kind of get into that locker room and you're like, oh, they hate me.
Yeah.
And like, if I beat this guy's ass, like, am I getting out of here? You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I mean, Tim's no slouch. I mean, he's a heavyweight. You know what I mean? But he's like, and he's sitting there telling me that story, sitting next to me like you were. And I'm like, he kind of said it with some real trepidation. Like, this is going through my mind.
He was actually scared, yeah.
He goes, and then you go out there, and he's like, you think you're going to get booed? And you get fucking booed. He's like, it's 10 times louder than you thought it would be.
Shit.
So what was that experience? And I know you fought an Irishman.
No,
a
Frenchman,
yes.
Yeah, they booed the shit out of me. But it was cool. Like, I expected them to boo me. He was... Yeah, I expected it, but I didn't expect it that bad, honestly. Yeah. I was like, there's going to be some, a couple boos here and there. Or when they say my name, they introduce him, they cheer for him, they say my name, they'll boo for me. But as soon as they said Archie Colgan and I started walking on stage, they said, boo. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, all right, let's go then. And then, they booed me the entire fight. And then, yeah, it was cool. I bet he got it way worse, though, because he's fighting. Didn't he fight, like, Fedor?
Yes.
Yeah, he's getting booed for sure. Yeah. Fedor is a Russian legend. He's an MMA legend, but they love him over there.
Absolutely. And one more thing before we move on from France that I just thought, we're giving Luke props, but Justin, here's a guy that just fought 300.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody in the world knows how that fight went.
Yeah.
He told you he'd be there.
Yeah.
Showed up, didn't he?
Yeah. That was a rough fight. When you talk about it, like we were talking earlier, it's a family thing. So aside from just being a teammate, me and Justin have grown a real good friendship and relationship in that way. So, that was a tough fight to watch alone as a teammate, but more as a friend, just being like, damn, that's tough. So he fought Saturday, and Thursday we had wrestling practice, and he was here in the gym, come watching me wrestle. And, I didn't talk a word about it. He had already bought his plane tickets a while ago. But honestly, I was expecting him just to be like, hey, Archie, like, what happened. Like, I'm just going to chill back and lay back at home. And I got your back and I'll support you from afar. But no, he was, one day he came up, he's like, hey, what day are you flying out? I'm going to get in on this day. And I was like, oh, you're still going to go? He was like, well, yeah, of course. And I was like,
that's so right.
I was like, man, yeah. And by then, now you're like kind of locking in as, getting ready to fight. So, but when you stop and think about it, it's like, man, he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He took his own money, go out there. And it just speaks to that of who he is as a person.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. He's a good mentor, good training partner, and a good friend to me. That's my personal relationship, but he's got so many others. He's got a friend to you and business partner to you. He's got, a son to his parents, and he's good at all those relationships because he's that same person in all of them, just a different variable.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really, really good way to put it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really, really, really
Me too.
Awesome.
I didn't expect it. I expect him just to tell me, I can't make it. But
and I just feel like that's what you guys have built here too, as a family and a team. And like there was never an expectation he wouldn't be there. Yeah. And in his mind, what I mean? And that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
All right, proud sponsor of the show, better damn well be Whiskey Bent BBQ. So this is a brand that Nicole and I started a little over a decade ago. You can find our rubs and seasonings in about 500 different retail locations throughout the U.S., Academy Sports, select Ace Hardwares, and then obviously here at our store in Lakeland, Florida. If you want to go check it out, please feel free to. WhiskeyBentBBQ.com, and you can use my discount code Oldboy Podcast for 15% off. Right now, we were talking about you kind of like my cooking a little bit. So you've got middle of September fight.
You guys haven't had it.
You're giving me a hard time about you couldn't eat as much. How do you, because you're fighting 155. You're walking around right now, what, probably 175, 180?
81 this morning.
81 this morning.
Yeah.
So obviously we're still little. Talk to me about how you manage that weight, and then obviously the last couple of days are very important. But I find it interesting because you got to get down, but at the same time you don't want to zap all the energy out of your body. And then I'm sure that's something too, like we talk about a lot here on the podcast, reps. So I'm sure you learn something a little different each cut.
Yeah.
Kind of what's your team's mindset when it comes in. 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, fight week.
So it's like all of this stuff in this game. Like, you trust your coach. I hired a nutritionist and he's worked with me now like 4 fights. So I trust him at this point. We built a good relationship, and he understands me and understands my body probably better than I do, honestly, because I just live in the body. He understands like how, weight fluctuations and stuff work. So I trust that he understands that I want to feel my best, train my best, and perform my best. So I just like leave it up to him, and he's plugging and playing with some things right now to help pull my weight down. Right now I want to be about 178, so I'm like 2 or 3 pounds heavier than that. No, it's not too far off, but it's a little bit off, so he knows my concern there. I try to stick around 178 to 175 up until probably like a month out, and then that last 2 weeks, I probably get down to like 72, and then there's 2 weeks left, and then I probably come into fight week. So that last week I get another 2 or 3 pounds off. I come in fight week like 70, 69, and then you lose that last 15 that week.
And that's just pretty much all water?
Yeah, so the fight week, you just cut out sodium in your food. So you eat chicken, but just no sodium. Eggs, no sodium. You sweet potatoes, stuff like that, asparagus. But just no sodium on it, and then you're just still drinking like 2 gallons of water, and then 1.5 gallons of water, and then you cut out water, and then you just go work out, and then you pull off 8 pounds like that, and
wow,
done.
I only had to ever manage 1 weight cut in my life.
Yeah. Boy. Back in the wrestling days?
High wrestling.
Yeah, how'd it go?
I think you get a kick out of this one. So
let me hear that.
So our 155 was good. Yeah. And I couldn't beat him. And so beginning of the season, coach was like, unless you just want to wrestle off every week, like, we ain't got nobody at we don't have anybody at 89 though, 189. And I'm like, I'm looking around like 163 with it. He's like, well, you got to put some weight on. You got to at least be 170 to wrestle 89. And I'm like, oh, cool. So like I go down to the pizza joint and put on weight. So, season starts going along. I'm doing fine at 189. I was a little quicker than them, and I was kind of strong for my size. So I was holding my own. Well, county tournament, we're wrestling and, we're practicing 3 days out. And I'd always practice with the 55 because he was good. Yeah. And I ended up dropping him on his head, sprained his neck. Can't wrestle county. So I'm in the first period the next day. Coach comes in, knocks on the door. Warden, talk to you. I was like, yeah. He's like, what are you weighing this morning? I was like, why do we care what I'm weighing? Coach, weigh 175. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, I'm going to need you down to 55 for Saturday. I was like, fuck. And I'm like, well, why can't the other guy? He goes, you did this to me. You got to make it right. So I'm like, shit. All right. So there ain't no internet or nothing to go to, try to figure it out. So I'm like, man, I remember watching Vision Quest. I gotta get that. I gotta get that rubber suit, bro. I gotta get that rubber suit. And so there's Chad Ward on the back porch with one of the old Schwindine bikes, full rubber suit, full sweats on, just eating sunflower seeds for 48 hours. Which, now that I know that, worst thing you could do is a whole ton of sodium. You know what I mean? But I thought, hey, I'm just living off sunflower seeds. Yeah. I'm going to make it, Arch. I'm going to make it.
I used to do that too, though, when I was younger. I didn't have the knowledge either. When I was in high school, I was doing not eating the proper things to be cutting weight properly.
Yeah, no, it was
I'm like, all right, bag of chips only weighs, 0.2. All right, I'm gonna eat this bag of chips, and it's all sodium. I'm horrible.
No, it cracked me up. Long story short, I ended up going to weigh when they opened weigh-ins on Saturday morning. I was 1 over, so just went out, did the track for a bit, hit 155. I'm wrestling in like 90 minutes. My dad's like, "What do you want?" I was like, "I want McDonald's." So 2 hash browns and 2 egg McMuffins later, which I thought was just a stellar idea.
Yeah.
I go out there in the first 45 seconds, and this guy should not be wearing me out. He's wearing me out. I finally just looked at the corner, gave a little injury time, walked over, grabbed that trash can, walked away a little bit, let all that go, came back, stuck with like 12 seconds. But that was my only weight cut story ever. But it's you guys have it down to science, man. It's unreal.
Yeah. It's a lot different. Especially then, well, did you weigh in night before or day of?
Day of.
Yeah, see?
Day of.
Yeah. So, yeah, we weigh in night before. We got like 30 hours
before
we compete. So it's like.
But I think that's healthy for you guys too. Like I think you should be able to get your water levels back and get to, you're going to war, against each other. I feel like you should be your best,
I agree too. Yeah, you're getting hit in the head. You want to make sure that that's, as healthy as possible after a weight cut.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what we got coming up, man. September 14th.
Yeah, we're going to London.
Yeah, we are. So 10-0 versus 11-0.
Yeah.
What do you know about your opponent? Tell us a little bit.
I know he's a Brazilian dude. He likes to throw big power, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy. So he likes to attack submissions off his back, and when he's on his feet, he likes to throw big hooks and big power. So I know that he's dangerous because he's 11-0. I'm 10-0. So he's in a very similar situation that I am, where he believes fully in himself. So I know that he's got the confidence on his side just as I do, and he believes himself just as I do. But there can only be one of us that wins, and I just don't think his skills can match to mine. So
yeah, it's where my money and my heart will be, old boy. Yeah. You know that for sure. Yeah. But I look at it and it's like you've got such an opportunity right now. 10-0. I know you said when you signed that contract with Bellator, your number one goal is to be a champion Bellator. Yeah. I would have never signed it if I didn't.
Yeah,
you're on that path, man.
Yeah,
I mean it's getting closer each fight. How's that feel?
It feels great. It feels like it's like visible now.
Yeah,
when you first sign it and you say it, it's like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
hopefully. But now it's like, a couple more wins, and that's we're knocking on that door. Yeah, that's what's real.
And you strike me as that guy that you've got management and all that stuff to look ahead in the next fight. You're just everything I can do to keep advancing, I'm going to do. You know what? They get their cut for handling that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you like it that way? Does that allow you really just to focus on the business's hand? And I've always been one of those people that I can only control what's in my sphere of influence.
Yeah.
Right? Why am I going to waste time, energy, and turns on something that, regardless if I worry about it all day or for 1 second, I can't change. I can't impact it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to worry about what I can worry about, and that's the skills that I'm building into preparing for this fight. Mm-hmm. I can't really worry about contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My manager is the best manager for that, so I make sure that he does that, and I trust him to do that because what's best for him is what's best for me as well. Yeah. And vice versa. So I know that he's taking care of me in that aspect, and I just come in here with my coaches and hone in to make sure that, when it's fight time, like the best version of me is showing up.
How about conditioning? You always been one. You enjoy the road work and the conditioning. You always had a pretty. I mean, nobody enjoys that. I take that back, Arch. But is that one thing that I feel like some guys always have it. Some guys have wind or don't have wind, and maybe that's because they've just always had solid conditioning. Like, where would you put your conditioning? Because I know it's so key to a fighter.
I think my conditioning is great. I think my conditioning is like top notch. But it's because I also understand my body. Like if I go out there at a certain pace that, somebody else, did you meet Corey Sandhagen while he was down there?
Sure did.
Yeah. So if I went and fought, a couple of rounds at his pace, I would be exhausted by round 3 because, I carry a lot more muscle mass than he does. I'm thicker. So if I was to move the frantic ways and the volume that he does, I would gas out. But I understand my body, and I understand how my pros and my cons to it of how my body operates. So when I've learned that, Like it's only a pro to me because I understand, that I'm not going to waste all these extra movements for nothing. Like it's got to be for something. And I know that when the fight later goes on, that people are not stronger than me. Like it's, so I feel like I'm kind of just building up as the fight progresses, where other people might be building down as the fight progresses.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
Like almost like you're pacing to where you're playing towards that crescendo.
Yeah. That's also something that I learned from training with Kamaru.
Really?
Yeah. Like
but you look at his style, he just becomes more of an animal as it goes on.
As it goes, like he maybe he's not the fastest starter, but as the fight goes on, like he finds his flow, he finds his rhythm. And
they're downshifting, you're upshifting.
Yeah, and he's like constantly in your face, constant pressure, putting you on your back foot, and you're like, fuck, when's this guy gonna get off me? Yeah. And I've learned that from training with him, but also just being around and watching him fight and watching him prepare. Like I watched him actually mentally and physically break people, not from round or minute 1 to 3, but like minute 7 to 10.
Yeah.
That's where you see guys start to like look around, look to find the clock and like, dang,
and honestly,
how much more I got?
That's the time where you can take a guy's soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really, really, that's thoughtful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've that's again from being blessed.
Look at you getting all cerebral on me, old boy.
Yeah, I think about that stuff. I think about that stuff. My goal is to be the best lightweight, and there's so many great lightweights. One that I trained with, Justin.
Yeah,
he's going to go down as one of the greatest lightweights. And if my goal is to be the best lightweight, man, I've seen the standard of what it is, so I have to meet that standard and surpass it. I have to do more. And I can only do it because I have the likes of him being around me to help me do it too.
It's great. It really is. I love it. And one more thing I want to talk about is, since we're talking about a little in-ring stuff. Yeah. Chael Sonnen likes to put you over on them foot stomps, old boy. Where'd that come from?
The foot stomps?
Have you ever talked to Chael?
Yeah. Well, not like a bunch, but during fight weeks, yeah.
Super cool guy.
Yeah, he is a cool guy.
I got him a Traeger a few years ago, and I'll never forget, I was sitting in the barbershop, and it was a Saturday, and shout out to the boys, Kirkland's Barbershop. Love those guys.
Yeah.
I may have been known to go in there on Saturday afternoons towards the end of the day with a, Yeti full of little afternoon beverage and chill out, get a haircut with the boys. And I just got Chael his Traeger, and he wanted to cook something. So I just called me, and I'm not one of those guys that put secret squirrel names in my phone. It just popped up. My barber goes, "Does that shit say Chael Sonnen?" And I was like, "Yeah, it does." He's like, "Are you going to answer it?" I was like, "I feel like we should." So I answered it, and he's like, "What's the baddest brisket cooking son of a bitch on the planet doing this Saturday, Chad?" And I'm like, "I just get my haircut." He's like, "All right, I got some cooking questions." And so literally we talked for like 10 minutes, and he was like the guy you see on TV. He was animated, and so I had a couple with him, but I like listening to him and Cormier go back and forth. I think it's a fun little dynamic.
Yeah, they got a good duo.
But man, he really puts the foot stomps over. Where'd it come from?
The foot stomps?
Yeah.
From Kamaru.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys remember when he fought Masvidal the first time. Mm-hmm. Like he put him against the cage and stomped his feet. And I remember one time he was training for, maybe it was for the Masvidal 2 fight, but I just remember asking him, I was like, "Hey, like what's up with the foot stomps? Like, what do you think about it?" And we legitimately sat against the wall and trained it. Like, it wasn't like I just went out there in the fight and just tried it.
Yeah.
Like, we were against the wall, and he was like, "You put them forward, and then when they plant their feet, put them down on it." And I was like, "All right." He was like, "Make sure you're doing it with your heel and not just your foot."
Yeah.
He's like, "Put your heel down and stomp on it." So it's a trained technique. Now, I learned it. I actually got a message from some guy. I don't really read the negative comments very often, but some guy messaged me the other day. He was like, "You're a dirty fighter, foot stomps. What is that?" I was like,
hey,
haters hate.
You want to break down a base? It's best to start at the foot. You know what I mean?
You should have just let me take him down then.
Yeah. You don't want to get your foot stomped? Go down.
Go down.
I love that. I love it. So, as we kind of wrap up here, it's been a great 12 to 18 months for you. I feel like, the baby boy, the success, just, you always got a smile on your face. You seem like you're loving life. What do we think, when we get together 12, 18 months from now? What are you feeling? What are you looking ahead for?
Well, let's say 12 to 18 months, somewhere in that time frame, we'll meet up again. We'll do another podcast. We'll talk a little bit. And I'll set my Bellator belt.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
I'll put that thing right over here.
Yes.
And we'll have a lot to talk about. And hopefully, maybe we'll jump on a two-way and have Justin on that side. He puts his UFC belt. Maybe three-way. Maybe Kamara puts his up there too. Yeah. But yeah, I want to have my belt. We'll sit it right here.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. And you know what, man? And once again, I'm not just saying it because you're here. I think you got it, man. You're in saying, earlier, I want to go back to that, when I said, what are you better at than you were 2 years ago? Yeah. And you pointed your head. You say, mentally, I'm better. Like, to me, that's strong. You've got it all here, bud. Yeah. I mean, but to own it up here and be able to go to that next level and find that next gear, I love what you're doing, man. Yeah. Can't wait to just keep following the journey, Archie.
Thank you.
You're impressive, brother, and can't wait to see more of it.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. And
absolutely.
All that stuff wouldn't have happened without the great team and support that I have around me.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm a blessed man to be chasing this goal and these dreams with these people and now with you guys.
Hey, we love it, brother. And anybody you want to shout out before we wrap up?
Shout out my wife.
Yes.
Holding it down. She's got the two boys right now. They're probably fighting right now at the house. So shout out my wife. I've been gone all morning training and doing
hanging with us. We appreciate that.
Yeah, she's the biggest shout out, but the shout outs are endless if we went down a list.
So give us a quick story. How do you find her? How do you find
my wife?
Yeah.
Yes, we went up to Wyoming and we are actually a Tinder success story.
Really?
No bullshit. yeah, and actually ended up working out. So
that's
awesome.
Awesome.
we went out on a movie date and things happened. And we actually went out and seen American Sniper on the first date. Great movie. Not a great first date.
That's a strong. I mean,
great movie, but both of us are crying in the movie theater. It was not the best. I was not thinking very well. I was like, oh, this was rated great movie. Let's go watch it. And I was like, we're both sitting there crying in the movie theater.
It definitely doesn't fall under romantic comedy. That's usually where
No, but yeah, that's how we met, and we've been together. It'll be 10 years in March. So yeah, we've been together all 20s. We met at 19, all of our 20s, and we both just turned 29. So
that is so awesome, man. I love it for you. And Arch, I just want to thank you again for the time and stepping away after practice and spending this time with us. I really love getting to know you more and hearing your story. And I'll say goodbye, Archie, for now, and I'll say hello, champ, next time I see you.
All right, thank you, Chad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the food too.
Absolutely. Hey guys, what an awesome interview. What an awesome guy. If you're not following him and liking him, you better now. Archie, thanks again. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Oldboy Podcast, and we'll catch you next week.
Later.
Thank you so much for listening to the Oldboy Podcast. Please subscribe, set your notifications, whatever you got to do to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. Also, feel free to go back, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Get some of the past episodes, check those out, and always feel free to check out our socials, Oldboy Podcast. Thank you so much.